I'll speak loud enough for them to hear. Yeah. Let us pray. Father God, we ask your blessing on this meeting of the council. We ask that you will guide the words of people who speak to demonstrate wisdom, compassion, and integrity. We ask that you'll bless the staff and officers of the council and all those who work for the good of the borough of Broxtowe and its residents. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, David. And please make sure you use your microphones if you're talking as well, as I just forgot to do. So, yeah. We'll start again. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Do we have any apologies for me of absence?
Councillor Ball.
Richard?
Yeah, I've got apologies from Mick Brown, Stephanie Kerry, Eric Kerry, and Lee Fletcher.
Thank you.
Illness.
Apologies from Councillor James Patrick.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I have spoken to the leader earlier. If the meeting's still going on at half past 8, I do have to go because there's a meeting in Kimberley I need to attend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We'll let you sneak out. Miller?
Chair, apologies from Councillor Sue and David Bagshaw tonight. Councillor David Bagshaw was here earlier, but has had to leave due to some difficulties at home.
Okay, thank you. You got all that, yeah? Yeah. Right, is item 2, any declarations of interest for tonight? No. Okay, item 3. I know Richard's going to want us on this one. The council is asked to confirm a correct record of the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of July 2021. And do we have a proposer? And do we have a seconder?
Mr Mayor, I propose that they accept as a true and correct record.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favour? Oh. Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. What's that already? Okay. Right. Item 4, Mayor's announcements. There's no videos tonight because the people that do that, I think they're off for the night, so we'll do some in December. So good evening and welcome to you all joining us for this Broxton Borough Council meeting back in the chamber for the first time since the pandemic started. And it's nice to see you all here. To keep us safe and ongoing with the ongoing COVID situation, may we request that you wear a face covering whilst moving around and also ideally while seated, obviously unless you're exempt. We will be keeping some windows open to ensure a good circulation of fresh air. I'd also like to remind you to keep things friendly and polite, and I know you always do, at all times, and be respectful to other people's views and opinions as we move through the agenda. In the last 2 months of being the Mayor, I've been really busy and I've attended 44 events. Events are varied and wide-ranging. It has been an absolute pleasure to attend them all, and I'm grateful and honoured to have been invited to each and every one. The people I have met are so inspiring, each with a story to tell, and many have dedicated their lives to good causes. Just a couple of highlights, and I'd like to mention. Firstly was the civic service on the 19th of September. That was absolutely amazing. I was overwhelmed by the turnout of civic dignitaries, fellow councillors, family, friends and local residents who attended and listened to the message of the importance of working together to help others, and a thank you to those who are already doing so. And then the next one, which was the charity bike ride, which was an absolute blast, that was. That was on the 25th of September, and I was joined by about 20 volunteer riders, and we all raised money for Broxtowe Youth Homelessness. And we was waved off by the Deputy Mayor, Councillor David Grindle, and the Deputy Mayoress, Pip Hallam-Davis, and we cycled from the Beeston Canalside Heritage Centre, along the path to Notts County Football Ground, and back along the River Trent. We actually lost one rider on the way round because he had a puncture, but we actually gained 2 more riders as we came to the finish line. The weather was kind to us, but the local people and sponsors even more so, and we raised over £2,000 and the money's still coming in. We were so pleased with doing this, we're hoping to do one again in spring. And I'd also like to thank Rocky Riders, Cycle In and the Bike Lounge for the kind donations which we used as prizes. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the White Ribbon virtual coffee morning, which will be held on the 25th of November at 10 o'clock. 25th of November and the 16 days of action following is a time that we utilise to communicate the White Ribbon campaign message of ending male violence against women. This and every other type of domestic abuse must remain at the forefront of our minds as we see increased domestic abuse case numbers rise across the board, which continues to impact the lives of our colleagues and our communities. To support the campaign or to join the coffee morning or for further details, please contact Kerry Scott, and her email is kerry.scott@broxtowe.gov.uk. And my thoughts are now turning towards Christmas, and along with the civic team, we're drawing up plans to support local people in need through the food banks, and we also hope to raise much needed funds for Broxtowe Youth Homelessness. I would like to say thank you to everyone that has supported me during my mayoral year. I'm really enjoying it. Finally, many of you will have already heard the sad news of the recent passing of ex-councillor Martin Plackett. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family at this very difficult time of grief. I would like to invite you to now join me in a minute's silence, and then we will allow anyone who wishes to say a few words about Martin. Thank you, and a minute's silence will begin. there anyone that'd like to speak? Richard?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's another sad occasion, and we seem to too often now be talking about friends that we miss at these council meetings. Martin was someone who was ever present in our party, and he clocked up about 70 years, believe it or not, of service, and very active service to the Conservative Party, and a very similar amount of time of very active service to the community of Bramcote, a place that he loved and was his home for his entire life, I think. We asked him very regularly to stand for council in Bramcote because he knew everybody. And he never would for as long as his friend Stan Heptonstall was a councillor in Bramcote. But he did take the chance and put his name forward when Stan retired. And he was very proud to serve Bramcote for those 4 years. And as you said, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure we're all thinking of Mary and of their son Richard at this time.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I knew Martin for about 20 years. We've fought against each other in elections. He's beaten me, I've beaten him. But we always got on with each other on a personal level very well. He was a very pleasant man, very easy to spend time with. Of course, he did have a very liberal yellow car, which could be spotted from anywhere in Bramcote. And I know that he was very proud to have served the ward, very proud to have represented his community, and he will be very sadly missed.
Thank you. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And unlike the previous speaker, who'd known him for over 20 years, I knew him only for the 4-year period in which he served Broxton Borough Council as a ward representative in Bramcote. On a personal level, I hope I always got on with him. I always found him to be quite an amusing person with a bit of sense of mischief and sometimes in fun. But I did enjoy his company, Mr. Mayor, and I wish to send on behalf of all our members in the Labour group and the Independents our deepest condolences to Martin's family. We did arrange for flowers and a card to be sent to his family. He will be greatly missed by everybody, and I say my deepest condolences to his deceased family at this stage. Thank you.
Just don't want to send everybody else, or is that? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Teresa?
Yes, thank you. Martin, I only knew Martin for the 4 years that he was on the council, but I greatly liked him. We were on 2 committees together, and he was a very, very lovely, warm and genuinely nice person. He asked me often about the charitable work that I do, and he was genuinely interested in it. And he gave me information about funds that he knew that were available, which I already knew about, but it was a very, very kind thing for him to take an interest. And I was genuinely very, very saddened when I heard of his death. And I just wanted to say that here, that, you know, it's not always that I really, really get on with Conservative councillors, but with Martin I did, and I miss him. So I'd like to say that.
Thank you. I think that's everyone. I just don't want to miss anybody. Right, thank you everybody for your kind words. So item 5 is presentation. Right, okay, there's no petitions, so we can move on to the next item. Item 6 is the leaders' report, so this is over to Councillor Radulovic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wearing my mask tonight because somebody told me that I look 5 years younger wearing a mask, so I've decided to wear it all the time. And as I said, coming from, they were lying with you, Jan, I look 10 years younger. But of course, Mr. Mayor, on a lighter note, of course, living in Eastwood as I do, or born on Victoria Street in Eastwood all my life, being a Forest supporter, and of course being a member of the Labour Party, I'm also used to social exclusion, which I've been doing for over 40 years now. So I start on that note, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to apologise to everybody for not having the leader speech earlier. Jeremy's head's now gone down. There were arrangements for it to be released much earlier. However, due to a technical and administrative problem, indeed, it wasn't sent out. So I apologise for everybody who's not had a chance to see it much earlier. But Mr Mayor, I want to, rather than just read tonight's leader speech, I just wanted to paraphrase a few items in there if I can. The housing delivery programme, I'm sure you're aware, is moving forward now, particularly with the ex-forces accommodation in Stapleford. And we look forward to see them being brought online, fully finished, fully fitted out for local people. Also, we're seeing further applications coming in from Boots, and without prejudging, delighted to see that, but we're also very encouraged to see the return again of some outdoor events, in particular Hemlock Rocks. Not that many of you in this room will like rock music, but you know, being of an age where Glenn Miller and perhaps is more appropriate, myself included these days, Richard, now. I'm delighted to see it back. And of course, the D.H. Lawrence Music Festival has taken place with over 100 acts in 10 different venues. And it says everything from country to punk. Now, just let me say, without prejudicing the next part, I have never ever sat through a country music festival. However, I've been to one or two punk meetings and do's in the like. Folk music, give or take, but rap, absolutely not, under no circumstances. But it was a great event that took place in Eastwood. And of course, Mr Mayor, thank you for your kind interjection there under your breath. And I'd just like to remind members that now Councillor Richard McRae as Mayor has reached the tender age of 50, going on 21. I was delighted to be able to pass on our birthday congratulations. And for those of you who are interested, we are doing him 50 bumps after the council meeting tonight on the tarmac outside, to which I'm already oversubscribed with volunteers. But Mr Mayor, one of the great successes during this summer has been the summer holiday activity programme. And 1,164 places provided on programmes including food and activities for children, particularly from lower income families, 1,035 places for primary age children and 120 for secondary age. And that came from the County Council, from government, and the 4 providers involved in the programme: Bricks for Kids, Liberty Leisure, Eastwood Community Football Club and Premier Education, and Transform Training. And I hope that will be the start of an annual event rather than just a one-off during COVID. But also, Mr Mayor, we're making great progress now on the Eastwood Levelling Up bid and the Kimberley Levelling Up bid. And recently had a very productive meeting with the County Council on the Walker Street site in particular. But also the strategic sites within our areas that have needed regeneration. They were particularly Eastwood and Kimberley, where sites of much traditional heavy industry. Eastwood in particular, and Kimberley with its coal mining, steel production, heritage. They all look at me going, out when I say steel production. Actually, Turner's United Steel was based at Langley Mill and employed several thousand people in its hive. So, Mr Mayor, there are a great number of opportunities. And next week I'm meeting the MP for Eastwood, which will be seeking his continuing support as we work ideas. And we're looking forward to meeting the Member of Parliament for Broxtowe as well, to continue pushing the bid for Kimberley. So, Mr Mayor, the disappointment, of course, is the failure to produce the integrated rail plan. They keep telling us imminent. What on earth does imminent mean? You know, it's been imminent now for 10 years. And it's extremely frustrating for us all, particularly those who's involved and who's interested in strategic planning. And my plea to you two all tonight is anybody that has any influence with government, particularly people like Councillor Owen, who I'm sure has a great deal of influence with the Minister and the Prime Minister. Next time he rings you, Philip, ask him if he'll bring some duty-frees back from Marbella. But Mr Mayor, whether or not the tram is going, or the HS2 is going ahead, the massive economic benefits resulting from this investment would be considerable. But also, Mr Mayor, there is an issue around the blight that people suffer, the continuing blight on their properties and investment, and the continual thwarting, it seems, of people like DevCo and the Levelling Up agenda to put together a strategic plan, whether that answer is yes or no. The uncertainty is certainly causing a great deal of tension and friction among MPs in Nottinghamshire and Leicestershire, to say the least. I'm sure the Chief Executive will fill you in on any of the details of the conversation on Friday, if you would like to ask her. But, Mr Mayor, the ambitions about being carbon zero, growth, it's exciting, improvement to the infrastructure through green network of rail and the blue infrastructure, the green infrastructure, the complementary housing growth in our area. It's time to get off the fence and stop prevaricating and actually commit to either a decision, whether that be yes or no. Mr Mayor, I'm also very pleased with the progress that we're making on the devolution bill, particularly district leads and the City Council, to discuss the county deal. Conversations are advancing constructively, and the list of things that are involved include environmental improvement, transport, economic development, investment, skills advances, improvement to health and social care, as well as making the decision-making process much more streamlined and efficient, especially between layers of government. Mr Mayor, as soon as I'm in a position to report back on the progress, I will do so. But I must say it is refreshing to work with a new administration at County Council. It would be better if it had been a Labour administration, but, you know, we have to work with what we're given. But, Mr Mayor, there is an opportunity to work positively and constructively, and all that without the unnecessary distractions of structural reform getting in the way. But I want to just mention, if I can, Mr Mayor, as well, tonight, the progress we're making on implementing our carbon reduction strategy, and my thanks to members and to Councillor Ellen Skinner and Greg Morse in particular for their Green Festival event. And we're pleased to hear that £23,500 succeeded in getting from the Forestry Commission to support more tree planting in Broxton. And I'm sure you all saw the advertisement for 500 fruit trees that the council's giving away soon, and I hope that you'll be taking them forward. Pardon? Sorry, ordinary, not fruit trees this year, ordinary trees this year. Right. Well, Mr Mayor, I want to finish on a more sombre note, if I can, tonight. Whilst I've not referred specifically in any detail to the COVID statistics and the response to the COVID pandemic, instead what I'd like to do is to talk about the parliamentary report into the COVID-19. Not in a derogatory way towards anybody, but in a way of asking some questions. Mr Mayor, it is without doubt COVID-19 the biggest crisis our country has faced in generations. It's probably the greatest peacetime challenge, certainly since the end of the Second World War. It's disrupted the lives to an extent few predicted. It's separated friends and families, it's closed businesses and damaged livelihoods, and most tragically of all, it has been associated with the deaths of over 150,000 people in the UK and nearly 5 million people worldwide today. Mr Mayor, also the success of the vaccine programme, it is one of the most effective in Europe, and for a country of our size is one of the most effective in the world. But having watched the news the other night, I sometimes wonder whether or not it's time for me to stop watching the news. When I saw the report of the parliamentary MP on BBC News, I was appalled. And I thought, where in all this is the BBC ever going to report the difficulties that we've faced, local authorities, local people, local communities, from COVID? Instead, it concentrated on attacking 2 paragraphs in this comprehensive report. Mr Mayor, the inquiry itself looked in detail at 6 key areas of response to COVID-19, and they are outlined in the report's first chapter. The country's preparedness for a pandemic, the use of non-pharmaceutical interventions, border controls, social distancing, lockdowns to control the pandemic, the use of test and trace and isolate strategies, the impact of the pandemic on social care, the impact of the pandemic on specific communities, and the procurement and rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. I don't know if I missed it, but I didn't see any of that reported on the news. Mr Mayor, I stand tonight in front of you, having lost one councillor through COVID, Councillor Ray Darby, and many families in this room, many groups and individuals have all been affected. Family, friends, people you know, neighbours, constituents. And it's been a difficult and sad time. The question I've asked is, what have we learned from this? And the answer is, we haven't learned enough. So what I want to do when I talk later on, Mr Mayor, tonight, is talk about move to a cabinet system. And one of the things I want to talk about is how we prepare for a 3rd lockdown potential, should it ever happen, and heaven forbid it would. But when you look at the new infection rates, particularly around Bassetlaw and Mansfield, it certainly makes you wonder. And a daily death toll that normally is between 100 and 200 on a regular daily basis. And so, Mr Mayor, what have we learned? I think what we've learned is we need to up our game in local government, whether it's the Borough Council, certainly Public Health, Nottinghamshire County Council needs to improve its performance structures and be better prepared for any future pandemics. But above all, Mr Mayor, I think what we've learned, what we need to do is learn as a society that we no longer, in my opinion, fit for the earth. Because what I've seen during this pandemic is a massive increase in selfishness. I've seen a mass increase in online and virtual abuse of people. I've seen racial tensions, I've seen violence against women plastered across our news every time. Mr Mayor, I hope that tonight, in saying these few words, that something will sink in for us all, including myself, that we need to do better. And it's not just here, it's everywhere, across all tiers of government, and much more important, it's across all tiers of society. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, David.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question for the leader on the in relation to the county council and the county bid. I see he makes reference there to conversations including transport investment. So can I ask the leader how much do we know how much the county council invested in the new cycle lane in Stapleford? And would he join me in congratulating them on giving us something that we can now enter into the Guinness Book of Records as the world's shortest cycle lane? And perhaps in the future we could organise activities for maybe having races down that cycle lane to see who can get the 2 seconds to the end the fastest. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, David. Mal.
Thank you. Also on the Levelling Up bid, I note in the report you talk about attending a strategic meeting with the County Council in Eastwood and having a meeting planned with the MP of Eastwood. Would you agree with me that you as leader of this council have a duty to ensure that you also attend strategic meetings involving the Kimberley bid? And can you give me an assurance, please, that equal amounts of officer time will be invested into the Kimberley bid as it is being with the Eastwood bid? And secondly, I'm surprised not to see a reference in your report, or should I say disappointed not to see a reference in your report with regard to the Kimberley Leisure Centre, which is the most pressing issue for the people of Kimberley currently. And I'd like to ask what this council's position is in relation to that. Thank you.
Has anyone else got any questions before I go back to Miller? No? Okay, so over to you again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've attended Kimberley Levelling Up Fund as an observer. I've been on them. The only reason I left early the other night was because I was coming to Finance Committee. And after the first 45 minutes that I saw, it wasn't exactly sparkling with ideas and encouragement, since I spent the first 30 minutes bickering about whether or not Kimberley Cricket Ground wanted to move. Mr. Mayor, I can give the guarantee that all bids are treated equally. And as pointed out, whilst I've got a meeting with Lee Anderson next week and on Tuesday, also offered the same facility to Down Henry. And I'd like to remind the Deputy Leader of the Opposition that actually I wrote, before anybody else had even suggested Kimberley Levelling Up Fund, to MP Darren Henry over a year ago now, about the opportunity to bid for funding in a statement that was issued via the Chancellor's office that that's something they were looking at. So I've been involved with the MP now for over a year for Broxlow, persuading him to support a bid for Kimberley, and I continue to do so. As I say, I do attend all the meetings. On Kimberley Leisure Centre, the only reason I haven't included it on there is because the school, EMET, have made their final position clear to us tonight. I'm just looking at some papers that I've got to, I anticipated a question along this line. I'm extremely disappointed, Mr. Mayor, let me be honest, I'm extremely disappointed. The notice was served on Broxlow to quit in April 2020, and since then there's been attempted to be an ongoing dialogue with Kimberley School, because there are obvious implications for the community. There are also obvious implications as well for people that work there. A lot of these discussions, Mr. Mayor, were held between us, with members invited from the school, from the borough, from representation from all levels, and you have been kept informed, at least we've tried to keep you informed of all the information relevant to the meetings that have taken place. Now, the school have served us now with final notice to quit the facility in April 2022, which I'm sure you're aware of now. And consequently, we are now dealing behind the scenes with the potential for TUPE transfer of staff and the potential for job losses from Liberty Leisure arising from the result. All along, the school have stated their intention is to manage the facility on behalf of the school for better serve their 6 schools that are part of the East Midlands Educational Trust, and wanted more recreation time, particularly during the day. It is exactly a year and 15 months, 15 months and a year and 3 months since I put forward a suggestion to Liberty Leisure Board in front of everybody else and in front of the school, asking for an arrangement to be in place, particularly fallback position for the provision of community recreation services within the borough, particularly Kimberley. I am still waiting for that report. I have constantly reminded them that I've asked for it, and where is it? And also, Councillor Crowe, we suggested to the school to put in a bid for up to £10 million for refurbishing the leisure facility, even if they were as part of the Levelling Up agenda. Myself and the Deputy Chief Executive offered to meet representatives of the school, and in possession came a letter back saying, I haven't got any time to be in the next 3 months. That's what happened. I'm incredibly disappointed, Councillor Crowe, with the way it's been concluded. Incredibly disappointed. I'm mostly disappointed with the way that East Midlands Educational Trust have behaved throughout this process, and bearing in mind this is nothing new to us. It happened to us in Eastwood when Radio Comprehensive took over the use of the leisure facility and that site, and it will happen with Chilwell Comprehensive as well. The fault lies within the academies. The pardon? No, it isn't yet, but they're still talking about taking ownership of the leisure facility. So the landed property is transferred to the school at Eastwood and to the school at Kimberley. And therefore, we are no longer partners in that arrangement. We are, in fact, providers of a service. We are still the offer is on the table for this council to provide an out of school hours leisure provision in Kimberley managed via Liberty Leisure. And I want to make that abundantly clear. That offer is still on the table. It is, however, been rejected. 2022 is the termination to which they will run the facilities on behalf of the East Midlands Educational Trust and on behalf of the community. But as far as we're concerned, Mr Mayor, that offer from Liberty Leisure and from the Borough Council is still on the table. And Councillor, responding to Councillor Watts, I saw the pictures of the cycle lane and Councillor McCrae allegedly being quoted incorrectly by the press and media, as if the press and media would ever misquote anybody or take things out of context. The one thing I've stipulated whenever you do a cycle lane, and I tend to disagree with you, David, I think it's important to raise the profile, whether it's 5 yards, 10 yards or 20 miles, to raise the profile and safety of cyclists. I think it's important, I really do. The one thing I've asked though, Mr Mayor, is to be personally excluded from ever using a cycle lane, footpath or walkway in these terms. But we will continue to work with the Levelling Up funds, the New Towns bid, work through the DevCo, through the HS2 Delivery Board, every opportunity to give better access for pedestrians and cyclists to the open countryside in a way that is safe and secure, to actually improve the connection that we have for alternative transportation to the motor car, and that will be something that is incumbent upon all our bids as we move towards an integrated strategy for the mass movement of people. So, Chair, I don't know how much it cost. If Banksy had painted it, it wouldn't have lasted long, I can assure you. We'd have dug it up and put it on the open market. But it is there as a stark reminder about the need to raise the awareness, particularly of cyclists. So however small, however long, I welcome every opportunity to raise that safety profile.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I completely echo what the leader has just said there, particularly around the engagement with EMET and Broxtowe Borough Council. It is bitterly disappointing how this has turned out, but you know my view. You know, the very principles of academy trusts are anathema to me, and this shouldn't be a complete surprise to anybody involved. And actually the difference is, of course, is that Chilwell School are a grant maintained school and they're not an academy trust at all, and their approach about how they want to enter into mutual benefits of delivery of leisure services both for the school and indeed for Broxtowe Borough is completely different. And I'm a vice chair of governors there, and I know that that is the confirmed position of Chilwell School. So I look forward, certainly on behalf of Chilwell, with to having a fruitful partnership on the delivery of leisure services. Thank you.
Thank you for that, sorry. Right, we've got one public question tonight, and we've got, I can see him hiding somewhere, former councillor Ken Rigby, who's here. He's now a member of Cossall Parish Council. So Ken, if you'd like to come forward or stand up or wherever they've told you to go.
I can't remember.
Ask your question.
One council we used to sit down and one council we used to stand, and I can't remember.
Whatever you feel comfortable doing.
I'll sit down before I faint. First of all, Mr. Mayor, may I say how nice it is, great pleasure actually, to see so many old faces, old friends, and there may be one or two where perhaps we weren't so friendly, but it's nice to see them as well. And I hope that you've survived this awful pandemic in the best possible way. And anyway, I'll get on with my question if I may. And my question, I address it to the leader of the council, Councillor Radulovic, on behalf of Cotswold Parish Council. For interest, those that might be interested, I lost the councillor title for exactly 4 months after my retirement. So here we go. Is the leader of the council aware of the fact that if the Borough Council's proposal for boundary change to Cotswold Parish is adopted in its entirety, the loss of income would force Cotswold Parish Council to cease its operation, having been in existence since 1894. In addition, is he aware that Cotswold Parish Council has carried out a secret and proper ballot of all the 118 properties affected, of which 84 replies were received, all of which 100% indicated that they wish to remain in the parish of Cotswold? Therefore, would he agree that the alternative proposal submitted by Cotswold Parish Council, whereby 52 properties in the glebe would move into the parish of Cotswold, whilst land in the area of the proposed new housing development, currently in Cotswold, would be surrendered into the parish of Horsworth, approximately 50 new properties, therefore ensuring the long-term future of Cotswold Parish Council? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Millen?
It's, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Rigby. I'd like to thank you, first of all, for your question, and comments received in response to the Council's initial proposals for parish boundaries have been considered by the Task and Finish Group, which is set up to propose draft recommendations to the Governance Audit and Standards Committee. The Governance Audit and Standards Committee will meet on the 29th of November 2021 to confirm those recommendations as the proposals to go forward to the next stage of the community governance review process. And Mr. Mayor, I'm aware of the consultation carried out by Cotswold Parish Council and the strength of feeling of residents in the area. And trust me, there are some pretty powerful lobbies in there, not least some people I went to school with, Ted, who have already took the opportunity to speak to me on this subject. Or was it speak at me? I think it was speak at me. So I'm well aware of the consultation carried out by Cotswold Parish Council and the strength of feeling of residents in the area. When looking at Cotswold, the Task and Finish Group gave serious considerations to the responses submitted by members of the public, as well as a proposal put forward by the Parish Council. At this stage, a decision has not been taken about any boundary changes in Cotswold or indeed anywhere else in the borough. However, I can confirm that the concerns raised, particularly about the Parish Council's loss of precept and the desire of residents to remain in Cotswold, have been taken into account, and the recommendation to be put to the Governance Audit and Standards Committee, I am sure, will allay the concerns of both the Parish Council and all its residents. Mr. Mayor, that's the official bit done. You know, that's the bit that's been printed for me. But on a different note, if I just may say so, you know, I have great sympathies with you, you know, and great sympathies with the identity of all villages and parishes within the area. You know, I look at my own area at Hilltop, for instance, and from 1972 to 1974, we were actually a part of Rushcliffe parliamentary constituency. Right up to the War Memorial in Eastwood was actually under the old urban district at Baseford, therefore we were part of Rushcliffe. You know, there are times that change. Yeah, what do you mean good? We could have got rid of him. Did you hear that, Richard? So if you want to stay there, they could have got rid of me. But there are times that change. There are changing communities, and the idea around a parish council review as well as a district council review and parliamentary review, is to take account of those changes in terms of making sense. And therefore, there are areas of the borough, we've all got them in every parish area, in every borough, in every town, we've got areas that need to be tidied up. There are areas of concern that are whether they are in one area or another, should they be. You've got gardens, for instance, half of somebody's garden is in one parish in Greasley, the other half's in Eastwood. There are some things that need tidying up, but no more than that. You know, to lose an identity by losing its precept would be wrong, in my opinion. And I'm therefore delighted to announce to you that the working group have recommended that there will be no changes to Costello, or only those as proposed. And they are minor tidying up parts. And it's really the same for the rest of the borough. What a complete and utter waste of time, effort and resources. If anybody ever wanted to save money at government and district level, abolish the Electoral Commission. Ruth, as returning officer, obviously can't say anything on this subject, but is smiling behind her face mask and giggling, I can tell. But what a complete and utter waste of time. It divides communities, it doesn't understand their identities, it takes no account of their history, all it deals with block figures and numbers, and it's wrong. So I'm sure the chair of Governance Audit and Standards, when she chairs that committee, will take these views on board when making their recommendations to that committee. But as far as we're concerned, I can't see the sense in it personally. And I say one great way of saving money, abolish the Electoral Commission.
Thank you, everybody. So the next item on the agenda is members' questions. And we've got 2 questions this evening, both from Councillor John McGrath. And if you'd like to put your first question to Councillor Radulovic first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow councillors. Is the right phone on? Yeah, it is. It must be my glasses. What has the borough, Millen, this is obviously to you, what has the borough has got planned for parking restrictions on the lead up to Christmas? All our towns in the borough have had a lean time. This is an opportunity to help businesses in the lead up to Christmas by at least allowing parking restrictions to be lifted in the month of December, please. I'm aware that some towns in the borough are having Christmas lights switch-ons. So is it possible to have free parking from Thursday the 9th of December, including the Friday and the Saturday, and the following Thursday, Friday and Saturday, leading up to the Christmas, to help the businesses and Christmas arrangements in our towns and give them the boost? The reason I have picked the Thursday, obviously, is because Stafford has a market on a Thursday, and that might just give it another boost. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did you want to answer that, Millen, or did you want both questions?
I'll take both.
Okay, do you want to do your second question then, Councillor McGrath, please?
Just tell me that. It was an honour to be chosen as part of the town's deal board with others to have a say in the shaping of our town's futures. Members from Eastwood and Kimberley will also have the chance, and thanks for that for the government's levelling up fund. But a question I would like to ask is, on the 1 million COVID recovery fund for businesses in Stafford, why, or is it, limited to the town centre? There are 41 businesses outside the limit, all within 3 minutes walking of the town centre. Some or many of these are still not up to pre-pandemic footfall, and I have said before, it'd be a long time to get confidence back within our towns. So could we please have a look at this, please? Also, I'll declare an interest as my business falls outside and it's only 30 seconds. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Millen, if you'd like to respond to those.
Mr. Mayor, I have a great deal of sympathy for all shops and businesses right across the whole of borough. And bearing in mind, within the borough of Broxtowe, there are something like 2,500 registered business from from people employed, self-employed, right the way through to major international corporations such as Boots. And consequently, Mr. Mayor, we understand the lean time they've had, and again take the opportunity to state this council's response to awarding businesses grants and other grants available from the government through COVID in a quick and very efficient manner to try and ensure the survival of as many of those businesses as possible. One of the key issues that we're looking at, and it falls under the remit, of course, of the Chief Executive, as she once reminded me rather tersely, not the leader. Do you remember that, Ruth? I do. And so we will be holding a committee, a look at what we can do to help support and regenerate town centre businesses throughout the Christmas period, across the whole of Broxton. Not just in Stapleford, but Eastwood, in Kimberley, you know, in Beeston. There will be an opportunity to examine that closely through jobs and economy and through finance and through policy. So it is hoped that we can provide local shops and businesses with that relevant boost. And when we're in a position to announce that, Mr. Mayor, then we will do so. But on the other issue around the COVID recovery grants, you know, one of the key issues around the sort of restart grant is to a defined town centre, and that has its good points. It also has its bad points. You know, for instance, you know, the COVID marshals could only operate within the town centre because it was EU money. I don't know if you knew that. The first two could only operate within the defined town centres because it used European funding. So, Mr. Mayor, there are a number of initiatives that we are pursuing, and these are the things that when we do get the opportunity to look at more seriously, is the way in which we offer grants across the whole of the borough. As I say, there are 2,500 businesses in Broxton. And what we're hoping to do through the Levelling Up funds and through, which we talked about in detail at the Eastwood meeting last Wednesday, and mention was made of it at Kimberley as well, is to look at ways in which we can help regenerate, refresh and reactivate our town centres and areas within that. So, Mr. Mayor, whilst at this stage the board that took the decision made a decision to stick to a defined town centre, we hope that in the future we will take a much more comprehensive view across the whole of Broxton in what help and support we can give businesses, whether it's through Levelling Up, New Towns Fund, any other government initiatives, any other government measures, any COVID recovery grants, new starts. So there are a variety of ways in which we'll do that and have a more comprehensive policy. But Mr. Mayor, I wasn't party to that decision that the board took to stick to the defined town centre, but that is the decision that they took, and I respect that.
Come back to John now, aren't I? Yeah, right. So, Councillor McGrath, do you have any supplementary questions on that one, or them two?
Well, without, I don't really want to go into an argument, but without, I can't remember that decision being made, Mellon, about it being limited to and I sit on the board. Sorry, if I'm mistaken.
For benefit of my councillor here, this was explained at the last executive board meeting and voted on by the board.
Councillor McGrath, I believe you abstained. I was there. I saw that.
Again, Ruth, without getting into an argument, sorry, I didn't know we went to a vote on it. Because I certainly, even if I abstained, I couldn't see that being right.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, so item 9 is there's no speeches on ward issues. Item 10, there's no questions on outside bodies. So item 11 you should have some extra paperwork. We are asked to make appointments with the schedule laid before the meeting. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? So do we have a proposer for...
Chair, propose that item 11 appointments to committees and working groups be as set before you on the table.
Thank you. And do we have anyone to...
Second that.
That's what I was looking for. Any comments or questions from anybody on that? That's what I like. Okay. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. What's next? Okay, so item 12 is decisions from committee meetings. These are decisions from recent committee meetings. I'm going to take the report as we did at the last meeting as a whole. So do we have any comments or questions from anybody? Councillor Pat Lally.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to point out on page 29, the Community Safety Committee, of which I'm Chair, we resolved that the modern slavery and human trafficking statement with a minor amendment be approved. Could I just highlight to all members that we don't seem to be picking up where this is happening, okay? Now, we have great access to our community and our local residents talk to us. So if you're aware of any business or enterprise or whatever where it doesn't seem quite right, okay, where the staff are not, are being treated very strangely, please do report it. Send an email to Ruth and we can ask some questions about it, because this is very, very much happening and it's happening under our noses and people are being abused awfully and they have no way of getting out of this without assistance. So please, if you are aware of it somewhere, just any suspicions coming from residents or anything, email to Ruth and we can just ask a few questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before? Okay, so those noting reports, so I'm taking it that they are duly noted. So item 13 is changes to government arrangements. And do we have a proposer for the report? Oh, Miller. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I have no hesitation tonight in placing this before council tonight. And in doing so, I'd like to just speak, if I may, briefly to the principle. We are only agreeing in tonight, in principle, to move forward, where a more detailed report will be brought to this council, hopefully at the Christmas council meeting for formal adoption, to move to a in principle agreement for a leader in cabinet style of governance be adopted from May 2022. And in doing so, I'd like to say a few words if I can. Mr Mayor, the world has moved on. I think the need for a quicker decision-making process, a more streamlined and effective delivery of the corporate strategies and corporate priorities. And instead of going back to a leader and a cabinet with scrutiny committees, the proposal that I put forward tonight for you to consider is in principle a series of delivery bodies based around the corporate plan objectives, of which the cabinet will take an oversight and scrutiny role in reverse in dealing corporately with the financing arrangements, the formal decision-making arrangements and the governance arrangements associated with that. So, if I can just give you a quick resume, Mr Mayor, of what we mean in principle, and looking at the key areas: health, leisure and environment, human resources, business growth, housing, community safety. Whether or not you agree with the decision on HS2, whether you support the DEFCO, the Levelling Up Fund, the Stapleford Towns deal, the Eastwood Levelling Up Fund bid, the Kimberley Levelling Up Fund bid, the town centre management strategy, market strategy on jobs and economy alone is a huge delivery. The word COVID has changed the way in which government operates, it changes the way in which local government will operate. and we need therefore to make our decision making and accountability and governance arrangements much more streamlined, much more effective and much more open. So Mr Mayor, moving, I say, to support this only in principle tonight, to allow that further work to continue, I would urge all members to support the arrangement. And whilst I have had some criticism for potentially appointing a politically balanced cabinet, I'm more than happy to give my reasons to do so, should any members of the opposition or any council wish me to explain further. But it has nothing to do with anything other than clear accountability and governance arrangements for some of the huge infrastructure projects that will be taking place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have someone to second that?
I'll second that, reserve the right to speak.
Yeah, definitely. I'll remember to come back to you. Do we have anyone want to ask any comments or questions? Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support this, and our group will be supporting it tonight. I thank the leader for a number of conversations that we've had about this over the last week or two, and for some assurances given us that our group will be a part of the considerations as to how the shape of the council will change from May of next year. I don't regret having changed the system 5-6 years ago, and I think it served us well through the remainder of our administration. I think it has changed in the last couple of years, and I think we've seen a gradual shift in committee agendas towards noting reports, and we've been behind the curve and being told what's been happening, and decisions that seem to have been made elsewhere reported back to committees. I don't think any of us particularly enjoy coming to listen to endless noting reports in committees followed by quite bland performance figures, and we want to be involved in decision making as to how the council is run. That's what we're here for, after all. I've worked under both systems and both have their faults, but I think the reality is it's as good as we make it as members, and largely it's as good as the leadership and the controlling group make it, and it's as open and as accountable as the leadership make it. So I take the leader at his word and look forward to it being implemented in the way that he's described it. It is important. It's particularly important that we get into the first tranche of the county, the super county, whatever you want to call it, the devolution programme, with every chance we can do that from next May and be a trailblazer and benefit from additional resources and additional powers, which I think would deal with some of the frustrations we've had at the limited powers we've got to deal with certain things, whether it's from the county council or from district and borough councils. So I think it is important. Government are looking for the upper tier authorities to be a leader and cabinet. Not explicitly said that they want districts to be, but I think I wouldn't want to be the only one that wasn't, and to be an outlier, because the applications to be one of the first to get a county deal, it's going to be oversubscribed, and we're up against a lot of stiff competition, so we don't need to do anything that diminishes our chances of getting that county deal, because I'm certain it will help us all at all levels in local government. So happy to support this, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Has anyone else before I go back to Councillor Carr?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors. Of course, this evening the vote is actually to agree in principle, and yes, I agree in principle to this, as for the reasons that Councillor Radulovic and Councillor Jackson have pointed out. What is going to be a challenge is there's going to be potentially less for backbench councillors to do, and the actual, if this is going to work, then it's got to be scrutiny. It's got to be a huge part of it. And one thing I think, and I might be speaking out of order here, one thing that we haven't been very good on in the past is scrutiny. And a good example of scrutiny is what you spoke about earlier, Milan, which is the Health Committee in the House of Commons, which is made up of people from all political parties. And the Conservatives on that scrutiny committee actually supported that report. That's scrutiny. You know, it shouldn't be done along party political lines. It should be having a look at things like the noting reports, like you said, Councillor Jackson,
and actually taking those to scrutiny committees and say, well, hang on a minute, you know, it's all right you're telling us about this, but can't we do that better? Should we be doing that better? What about doing it this way? And so the cabinet system won't work unless there are very, very strong scrutiny committees behind it. And that's where the job of the non-portfolio or shadow councillors comes in. And I fully support this. And as Milan said, we will continue to speak to the opposition about the way we see this moving forward. But it will include a degree of membership from the opposition parties. I don't think it would be fair. I mean, a lot of the councils in Nottinghamshire don't do the Richard. I mean, I was looking at Gedling the other day. Their cabinet is entirely from one party, which I don't think is on. That's not what the electors of Broxtowe voted for. We have to be completely aware that no party won Broxtowe, and the ruling group is made up of 3 groups. And so it would be unfair, in my opinion, to have, no opposition representation on the cabinet at all. So I look forward to this, and as I say, I can't reiterate enough, and perhaps we should be thinking now of what we can do training-wise with regards to scrutiny, because it's all right telling somebody we want you to scrutinise, but if they don't know how to do it or when to do it, then it's not going to work. So thank you very much.
Councillor Philip Owen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors. We have no choice but to support this in principle proposal tonight. I don't think it's an argument as to whether one system of delivery is better than the other. The reality of the situation is that I think all councils and all councillors across Nottinghamshire would like a devolution deal, because it brings so much more opportunity for levelling up, if you like, across the whole of Nottinghamshire. And the government, rightly or wrongly, have made it clear that they will not countenance a county devolution deal without a cabinet and strong leader system in place, particularly at the county council. I think they've been a bit ambivalent about whether or not they want it at district council level. But I think not to have this model in place would impede the devolution deal request to government, and we would be failing in our duty if we did that. So I won't say I'm happy to support in principle, but I'm willing to support in principle, and I emphasise in principle at this stage, because I felt that the leader and deputy leader were not necessarily singing from the same hymn sheet. I may have misunderstood. The leader said nothing about scrutiny, but talked about delivery boards. The deputy leader talked about scrutiny as being the main item of this new model of delivery. And we know from past experience, I know both from county and from how it used to operate here, that scrutiny in the form that it existed was a complete and utter waste of time. And backbenchers who were lumbered sitting on scrutiny committees voted with their feet. In other words, they didn't bother to turn up. So there are inherent dangers. But as I say, we have no choice in this matter. We've got to agree this in principle. We want the devolution deal, and by God, we'd better get it.
Thank you. Millen, did you want to come back to sum up if everyone's done? Yeah, you can come back to sum up. Right, back to you.
Right. Thank you, Chair, and thanks to those speakers that you've mentioned tonight. Look, the leader cabinet model is dependent upon a number of factors, and when you look round at the issues that are facing not just the districts but the county, and let's just talk about some of the major issues. Whether we talk about the DevCo and the impact on the Toton Master Plan, HS2 and the impact that would have on residents and the not just the Level Up agenda, but more the East Midlands Connect agenda and opportunities. Broxtowe is situated in the heart, right in the middle of all the major developments that are taking place in the first phase. Ratcliffe-on-Soar and the Freeport will be later. And there is therefore a need to realign our corporate priorities with the wider issues that come with the opportunities to benefit Broxtowe residents. Now, it is a matter of interpretation, Councillor Owen, how you detail on what we talk about. I would sooner have the opposition members, 5 opposition members on Cabinet, to scrutinise Cabinet, but I would also have the whole of the Cabinet to scrutinise the delivery body. And it's not for a wise group of 12 or 7 alliance members to dictate all policy and or take all the decisions on behalf of 44 members. I am a Democrat. I actually believe in democracy. You know, it makes me very dangerous as a politician. I actually believe in what I'm saying. You know, so Chair, in that respect, all members from across all political parties, and the only disagreement we have, Councillor, I mean, Steve said there's 3 groups, there are actually 4 groups in the council. The Ashfield Independents is different from the other independents, correct?
Sorry, Les.
Yeah, so there are 4. But you know, so the idea is to give that accountability and that transparency in the decision making, that people have the opportunity to speak at delivery, make those recommendations to Cabinet, who will take a corporate view on implementation, financing and the governance arrangements to deliver. Because you don't think, nobody in the right mind thinks that should the Chancellor's statement next week say that we're going to give you £2.7 billion for the DevCo proposals and the East Midlands Levelling Up Fund without any corporate governance arrangements to deal with that and effective scrutiny, is not in the real world. You know, what will happen is that it will come with a number of timetables, it will come with a list of requirements, whether it's through delivery programme, governance arrangements, financing arrangements, whether the board constitutes a proper makeup. So there will be a whole programme to deliver. But its benefits for the residents and the quality of life for the people in Broxtowe and East Midlands is immense. And it's an opportunity I don't think we can throw away. Now, I would much sooner have that process where members make the recommendations to Cabinet on that corporate plan and corporate strategy delivery, so that you've all got a hand in the decision-making process. You've all got the opportunity to be involved. And then Cabinet will take that overview position of its implementation, its timetable and its financing and all the other arrangements that go with it. That, in my opinion, Mr. Mayor, is the fairest way of doing it. And it means that everybody in Broxtowe, no matter which way you voted, you will have the opportunity to have a representative at board level, at Cabinet level. That surely is the best way of going on. I'm sure you'll take these arguments to the County Council, and the County Council will invite members of the opposition to be on the Cabinet at County so they can offer effective scrutiny to the delivery of the county's corporate priorities. I know you will, Philip. I know you will. So, Mr. Mayor, the importance I cannot stress enough. Sometimes I stand back and I wonder if not just we in this room have grasped the immense opportunity and have the vision to see what the future can deliver us if we are placed to deliver it. And I don't know what the public thinks. And I have no concept of their understanding of people who are not involved in this decision-making process, could ever grasp the reality of what it actually means. When you talk about the potential for creating 84,000 new jobs, whether it's 6,000 new houses, whether it's giving people the opportunity to access high quality employment, training, housing, a green and blue infrastructure, a development that is carbon neutral, energy efficient or carbon zero, and will set the framework for future generations' hopes and aspirations, then to not have in process in this council a delivery mechanism that is, in my opinion, fit for purpose would be an abrogation of responsibility. And that is the strength of feeling I have for delivering this. There are faults in all systems. There has never been a system in the world devised that does not have its imperfections and flaws. I am still waiting for anybody to give me a better model of a way to work than having effective scrutiny at cabinet level and the decision-making process devolve to members, to local members who are democratically elected to properly and correctly represent their constituents. Or you can sit on your hands for 4 years, call yourself a councillor, come along to put your hand up or oppose a noted report, and if that's your idea of democracy, then we all might as well call it a day. That is the strength of feeling I have. So, Chair, Mr Mayor, the report that will come back will be an enhanced report based along these principles, and I hope that members will give it their support. And if I can close on the issue of the devolution bill, what does that actually mean to people? And I want to give you a scenario that I put to the county and to the leaders of the district councils whilst they were arguing about other things. What I said, Mr Mayor, was this: to realign, based on our experiences from the things that I talked about earlier on under COVID, social services, children's services, adult services, with the health authority and with people like the housing providers and the planners, to run a programme of community safety based around the whole of Nottinghamshire and an arts and events programme that actually had all tiers of local government working together to try and end social isolation and loneliness. I consider that not just to be a political idea, but a moral responsibility. So for me, I'm an enthusiastic supporter of this system for the reasons I've outlined tonight, Mr Mayor, and I urge all members to support it.
Thank you. Okay, so the resolution is before you on page 47. So can I ask for all those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Oh, that's unanimous, thank you. So item 14 is to vote to exclude the press, the public and press. So do we have a proposer?
So therefore we move for the request to exclude it as it's likely to involve exempt information.
Okay, and do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. So we just need to wait a few minutes till they turn all the yeah, so you just